I'm not talking about the IT, right? I'm the IT guy and never touched that in that discussion because I think, yeah, so there are servers, storage, right, network, and a lot of clouds, of course, in behind. But isn't it, you know, that's handled and that's, you know, doable. But isn't it the disruptive moment where you can start immediately a new kind of business out of that?
Am I disappointing if you have to say yes?
Not at all.
I mean, yes, of course. But again, you know, I think the point behind a lot of these things is that you can plug into a large set of existing tools to make these kind of things work. If you would have had to build Car2Go or Drive Now, and you first would have had to build sort of an underlying map service, that would have been slightly more difficult, right? Gladly, there's a company out there that has built a pretty cool map service that you can integrate with, or multiple companies. And I think it's really neat. I will give you another example in terms of opportunities that you see that I think is, you know, I probably would have never invested and it would have been very stupid not to invest. A company like Citymapper that created a company, I'm not sure how much it's used here, but it's very, very big in London, for example, that has built on top of an existing maps infrastructure, something that just solves transportation, so public transportation, that is, if there's no Bahnstreik, but public transportation on top of an existing maps layer, and that you can, just by integrating into public transportation data and just fixing that, you can even attack a Google. You can build a service that's even more attractive than a Google Maps, which, you know, that's why I would probably never invested. But I think that's a huge opportunity, that there's platforms you can plug into, and then you do Veredelung and something very, very specific.
But I think Nico's question, that Niko over there, was actually quite a good one, which is that really big data? So I think we're very excited about these integration opportunities, and to add one more example, TransferWise, super smart company, all about, you know, changing money between pounds and euros. That would not be possible without a huge amount of financial infrastructure behind that company. It's just the tiny front end that's exactly a wonderful value position to be in to facilitate that. So, but is that really big data, or is big data about machine learning, about huge data sources that cannot be analyzed anymore in a structural way? It's about unstructured data. It's about massive data sets that we only have new technologies that can actually crunch that, which haven't been there for 5 years ago. So what are we actually talking about?
Yeah, let's split up. Well, one thing is technology innovation, and the other thing is data. It could be combined, of course. But look like companies like Spotify, are they successful because of data from the beginning, day one? No, it's because of technology innovation, but now they're using and getting more and more data, and they're working with this even to become bigger, more global and efficient. This is the beauty about it.
I mean, thanks, Niko, because we got a bit sidetracked and excited about other stuff. I think it's very good to ask the question, what kind of companies are being created that can only be created because they can sit on top of something like a SAP HANA in-memory database? And to be perfectly honest, maybe that's a sign of, you know, the typical kinds of investments that are being made here. I don't see 50 of these per week. I don't see 5 of these per week. I don't see 5 of these per year here in Germany. Maybe this is different in Israel, but I mean, there's not a lot of companies that we see where you see they would first need, and these companies exist, I'm sure, but you first need this insane amount of infrastructure dealing with data sets that are so large that you cannot solve the kind of questions that this brings up without having access to something like that. But it exists, right? I mean, SAP didn't develop stuff like that just for the fun of it. And maybe this is more of a problem for them, not startups. Maybe it's more of a problem for people, you know, who have 150 billion transaction data points and try to make use of this stuff in real time.
Niko did a big breath, so something to answer here? Or?
No, not totally agree. So I also don't see these companies, and this is why I always say this, so there will be a rare set of companies and a rare kind of markets where it makes sense either to do that horizontal combination approach, which is not so much about machine learning, etc. So it's creating value from aggregating the data from different sources, which is the, let's say, retargeting idea, for example, or the Kreditreform InfoScore old school business model. And there will be few, and I have not seen one of them here in Germany, which are so technology advanced, like I don't know, autonomy 10 years ago or something like that. And their market will be usually more of the big corporate market and not the startup market.
So let's have a look into that. We talked about about companies we're looking for, but how do you use big data services today? Are you using them? Are you leveraging them to make your decisions? There are already investors in America who try to use kind of robots to find new ideas. Is that something where you see a market in? Do you see an advantage for you?
So there's one tool I use a lot, which is MetaMark. I actually published an article last week on Cologne, and this week I'm going to actually publish one on Berlin on my blog. So what MetaMark is basically it's a tool set. They aggregate all kinds of signals and from number of social followers to website visits and for startups, I think a million startups across the world, and I think that makes it interesting because it really is non-curated. It's really an approach to profile a startup in Cologne or Berlin just as much as a startup in a small town in China, or of course all the cities in the US. And so last week I looked at Cologne, and a city which I'm from and I know very well, and try to see, okay, how close does it actually match to what I think is the reality on the ground. And there were kind of like some really on-offs, totally wrong, but it was remarkably good. And looking at Berlin, it also was reasonably good, but it's also only just a snapshot in time. And I think the big question over the years will be, does it actually help in making investment decisions? Or is it just the startups with the biggest noise, the ones which get picked, and then as always, it's the as I said earlier with the startups, they have the same problems, I guess, as a VC, is that one number you're striving to achieve as a VC, be return on investment. Does the data help you achieve that number? And that is the tough question.
There's a potential of SEO hacking, that time search engine optimization hacking, where everybody tried to get first right. That might be a chance, right?
So data for us as a payment provider is very important. But the interesting thing is to really get relevant data, and I would also not say big data, it's not big data, it's data, was very difficult. So the banks or Visa, MasterCard don't want to share a lot of information. They had even not an interest to share so many information, why a payment didn't get through and so on. So especially for companies that become global and processing thousands of payments per day, it's very important to get data, to learn from it, to make it better and to optimize the workflow. And for us, it's very important really to collect high qualified data to provide this to our merchants, that they can learn and they can optimize their business. And it's a big topic for us, and it's fairly not new, of course not. There always exists data, but they exist now with technology innovation, completely different data. But the way to bring them together, that it's usable for the merchant, this is a challenging point.
Gabriel?
Just quickly back to using data to uncover exciting companies early. I think MetaMark is an interesting, great tool. I think there's always questions about tools, that everybody has access to, and what kind of information does it give you if everybody has access to it. That's okay. Stock market's a good indicator for questions around that. But I think there's probably something more behind that, and if you look at some of the larger venture firms, the ones that are 250, 400 million index, etc. I mean, these companies, these VCs, all employ data scientists, and maybe the most exciting opportunity in terms of where things are going to go. I don't know which companies are going to emerge, but the role of the data scientist, that's for sure, that's going to be a critical position in many companies, and many companies don't have somebody like that today. But the reason why you need a data scientist or an index Excel, or the large funds in the US use data scientists, I think, is that the kind of data pools you have to access are so different that at least today and for maybe the next 10 years, maybe 20, I don't know, you actually need humans to make sense of it and put it all together. To give you some more data points around that, they will start looking into data in platforms that advertise for jobs. They will look also crawl or try to assess platforms that where specific engineering problems are discussed. They will look into websites where engineers describe engineering problems, and then you see certain trends of open source software, for example, emerging oftentimes early in these kind of platforms. But it's a variety of sources, and it's also a set of changing sources. So net, I think it's still something you need people for, and it's very different sources, and then it can make sense.
Then we come back to the right questions, right? Which is whatever amount of data you have, you need somehow a brain as well to get the data to the right questions. So final statement from you.
Well, I wish the data scientists could help me take investment decisions, but in seed investing, it's mainly about finding talented founders. So if any of you have got an algorithm that crawls around the net and tells me if a founder is a great guy, then I'd be happy to use it. Thanks.
So, do you agree in that, or do you want to disappoint me again?
No, I totally agree. You can make a decision about an insurance purely from data, yeah? So that's a statistical game. But on the very other end of the spectrum, if you're in early stage venture investing, you mainly take a look at the team, and that's really true. And of course you will have some tools starting with the Google search engine and maybe like Flurry, which is GFK for mobile or stuff like that, to get some data to take a look at whatever the KPIs and evaluation. But the majority of your investment decision is based on the team and their hopefully how you judge their execution ability or their track record who shows that. So using big data there, I don't know. Yeah, some tools you will use in research, but the majority is still people's driven business and decision, especially in early stages.
So one question more to Niko. So how about gut feeling? So it's all the data, of course, but what's your gut feeling on that?
In an investment process.
What the relevance of gut feeling in an investment process compared to big? Yeah, of course, if you have to judge people, what else can you have than gut feeling? Of course, you can try to not guess too much if you, for example, invest in serial founders, which makes it easy because you already see they have some track record, they have done something, and at least you have some level of security that you don't have to coach them with every basic stuff, yeah, but they know how to operate a company or how to grow a business. So this is, of course, why at the end of the day, for our investment criteria, number one really is team and experience of the team.
Would be a really good business opportunity, though, to create a tool which aggregates massive amounts of data to judge founding teams if they have a lack of success. Just an idea.
So person, as a human being, like the idea that the wetware is not old school. So it's, I think, a valid question. So last statement from me.
About this topic, about gut feeling versus quantified investment decisions?
About big data. And
too bad. I could have wanted to that as well, which is, I think, you guys are basically, what you guys said about this big thing about gut feeling being important, and it's a people business, especially in early stages. That sounds awfully old-fashioned. Awfully old-fashioned. You guys are really way back, because if I look at what Y Combinator did, what did Y Combinator do? They did seed investing, but they put an industry around that. The application to Y Combinator is highly structured. It allows them to compare thousands of founders twice a year and really create kind of the Harvard of startups, right? Very early stage. And that is a very structured process, and maybe not enough data in there, but there already is some data in there. So that's why I think this sounds very, very dusty to me, what you guys are saying. But in general, do you want a final statement on data as well? I think data still, even though we're kind of a little bit arrogant about the term big data, I think it's still a huge opportunity for large and for small businesses, and we really, you know, the whole future is still ahead of us regarding data, and it's very exciting.
Thank you very much. So, last statement from Christian.
Last one. Data can be really exciting, absolutely, and technology innovation, big data can help to process information that human beings would maybe even not able to process. Nevertheless, the decision by people and at the end to do a final decision is very, very important. So I would say data is important, is exciting, but look on the details and where you get the data from.
Thank you very much, Christoph. I think we had a very broad discussion, hope very interesting for you as well. We covered a lot of topics, of course. We'll see now some companies who are focusing on big data and working with data on that stage. That panel will be led by Gabriel, if I remember right. So I'm very interested if we build a good ground for their presentation and the discussion with them. Thank you very much to all of you. It was a pleasure to discuss with you. Always a highlight of the day. Thank you very much. Thanks.